All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolute masterclass on asset allocation strategies. We are going to move from foundational theory straight to practical application for your desk. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the foundations of asset allocation, strategic allocation frameworks, tactical allocation techniques, dynamic and core satellite models, and finally, strategy implementation for PMs. Let's get right into it. Section 1, Foundations of Asset Allocation.
Look, as a PM, you already know the drill. Asset allocation is what drives the vast majority of your return variation. It's the whole shebang. What we're looking at here is how the efficient frontier and the risk-return trade-off matrix literally define the absolute boundary of what's mathematically possible for your portfolio.
So, just to formalize our baseline for a second, asset allocation is that rigorous process of dividing up a portfolio among different asset categories. The goal? Balancing risk and reward according to your overarching mandate. Obviously, it's not about picking the next hot stock, right? It's all about systematically managing your exposure to distinct risk premia over time. Now, this is absolutely crucial. Macroeconomic drivers actually dictate your capital market assumptions way before you even touch a quant model. The shifting sands of things like interest rate cycles, inflationary versus deflationary environments, global GDP, geopolitics, and corporate earnings. These forces fundamentally alter the attractiveness of literally every asset class. Moving on to Section 2, Strategic Allocation Frameworks. You can kind of think of strategic allocation as setting your ship's course over a multi-year horizon. Your long-term strategic baseline weights act as your firm anchor. They give you a solid, unwavering standard to evaluate all future performance against. But hey, an anchor is totally useless if the ship just drags it along, right? When we compare disciplined strategic allocation to market drift, you see the danger. Without strict rebalancing at set intervals, market drift will secretly hijack your portfolio's intended risk profile. Your winners automatically become overrepresented, risk parity breaks down, and suddenly you're dealing with hidden liabilities that need disciplined correction. So, to prevent that drift, we followed these exact steps to build a mathematically sound strategic policy. Number 1, meticulously define the mandate's return and risk objectives. 2, formulate your capital market expectations. 3, run those mean variance optimization models. And 4, establish your policy weights along with permissible tracking bands. All right, Section 3, Tactical Allocation Techniques. Now we're talking about tactical tilts, those short-term deviations from your baseline. Tactical asset allocation is awesome because it allows you to intentionally step away from your strategic weights to exploit sudden pricing anomalies or macro dislocations. You're basically grabbing that immediate alpha without abandoning the long-term goals we just talked about. As a PM, your quantitative green lights for these tilts are going to be specific metric shifts. For example, if valuations show P to E expansion, you might underweight equities expecting mean reversion. If high-yield spreads widen out, you'd overweight safe bonds, a classic flight to quality. Yield curve inversion? Time to increase cash or short duration based on recessionary pricing. Or if you see strong price momentum, you overweight that trending asset to capture the trend. But, this introduces a pretty massive risk. When does tactical drift actually become a liability? You've got to ask yourself if your active shifts are actually generating genuine alpha, or if you're just racking up transaction costs and blowing up your tracking error for no real reward. Dynamic overallocation can quickly erode the very returns you're chasing. It's a fine line for sure. Section 4, Dynamic and Core Satellite Models. Notice the stark structural difference here. On one hand, you have continuous dynamic hedging adjustments across market cycles, which contrasts sharply with the highly segmented static core versus active satellite architecture. Both manage active risk, sure, but through entirely different philosophies. I've got to say, the core satellite framework is just incredibly powerful. It basically locks in cheap, passive market stability right in the center. That's your core, while you deploy your specific risk budget on those high-conviction, alpha-seeking satellites out on the periphery. It's the ultimate compromise. And honestly, this is exactly why PMs love this model on the desk. It optimizes your total portfolio fee structures, perfectly isolates your active management risk, prevents style drift in the main portfolio, allows for that specialized alpha generation, and, maybe best of all, it vastly simplifies the performance attribution process at quarter end. Which brings us to Section 5, Strategy Implementation for PMs. Implementation is all about unyielding discipline.
Establishing rigid risk tracking error bands and rebalancing thresholds is absolutely crucial to prevent emotional decision making. When an asset class pierces a band, action is required. The math decides, not market panic. By standardizing your playbook, you ensure that you buy low and sell high systematically. The steps are straightforward. 1. Monitor your asset weights daily against policy ranges. 2. Identify any breaches in those predefined risk bands. 3. Calculate the transaction costs of realignment. And 4. Execute the trades to get back to your target allocation. It completely removes friction from daily desk operations. Remember, as an elite allocator, your true edge is a repeatable process, not a crystal ball. It is all about process over prediction. You need to systematize your allocation to completely neutralize those behavioral biases that just silently drain basis points over a market cycle.
So, I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on before your next internal portfolio review. You need to ruthlessly audit your tactical shifts. Ask yourself, are your tactical bets truly justifying their active risk, or is it time to systematically retreat to your strategic baseline? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.